Welcome to Unscripted Turbulence with Raegan Medgie. I'm your host, Raegan Medgie. And for those of you who have seen me on the TV in various markets, hello, friends. It's so good to finally be back. It's finally happening. Let's start with my story. Grew up in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Went to college at Temple University. When I enrolled there, one of my assistant principals from my high school suggested to me that I should go into broadcast journalism because, as she put it, she could see me on the desk of the Today Show like Katie Couric. So that sounded pretty darn good to me. And I thought, okay, let me go to school for that. So I went through my 4 years at Temple, and I got my first gig, my first TV gig in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Currently, it no longer exists. It was a very local, yokel kind of TV station, Service Electric TV2 News. And was there for about 4 years. Got out of the business for a hot second to do commercial production, thinking maybe that's kind of the media I wanted to do. Realized shortly into that, 3 months into that, not my thing. So I thought, you know what, let me give myself another shot. And I went back into local news. This was when I was 27. So I went up to Elmira, New York at WETM 18 News. It's an NBC affiliate. So I did 2 years there. So the way it works is, as a TV news person, you go in and it's usually a contract. So it's like a 2-year contract. It could be a 3-year contract. And your roles, you might start as a reporter, which I did, but then became a reporter anchor. And then you do basically a bit of everything. Producing, editing, everything. So did my 2 years in Elmira, New York, and I wanted to get to Channel 6 Action News in Philadelphia. That was my long-term goal. I grew up watching it, loved it. So that's an ABC affiliate in Philadelphia. So I'm up in Elmira, I get done, I end up in Scranton, Pennsylvania at WNEP Newswatch 16. And very big market, bigger than where I had gone. And when we talk about market size, it's basically how many people live in this specific area. And, you know, usually the rural areas have a higher market size. So I ended up in Scranton, and I was there for about 5 years. And that's when I got an agent. And I said, okay, well, you know, I want to get this agent. I want to kind of figure out, can I get to Philadelphia? Because as a TV person, you always have your eyes set on the next step. Like, you do your job, you do what you can, and then you try to think, okay, where I want to go next because your contract ends. So I got an agent, and she knew somebody at the Weather Channel. And I thought, okay. And she told me that they're interested in me. And I said, I'm not a meteorologist. And she said, well, it's okay. They're starting this new show. And they basically want a reporter who can tell the story of weather, almost humanize weather. I thought, okay. So ended up getting that gig. I go from Scranton to New York City, basically. And I was the Northeast correspondent for the Weather Channel. I would travel throughout the country and chase storms, follow storms, be in an area and talk to the people impacted. And it was really awesome. So that was about 2 years. I got a call from my boss saying, hey, listen, so we're not renewing your contract. And it's nothing to do with performance, has everything to do with money. Now, I wasn't getting paid a lot, but so I thought, oh, geez, what am I going to do? I kind of found myself figuring out on my own what to do and reaching out to my contacts. So I reached out to a contact at CBS 2 Local, and she, who I had worked with at the Weather Channel, got me in to talk to CBS 2. Awesome. So CBS 2 ended up hiring me as a freelance. Thus begins the world of freelance. Never knew what this was. And it's there's a lot of freelance work in New York City. Up until this point, I was always staff at all my TV stations, so I don't really know what this was. So the freelance started at CBS 2. I was there for about a year and a month. I had still been doing freelance gigs with Weather Channel because they not dropped me, but they moved me from staff to freelance. So now I'm doing freelance work for Weather Channel at the same time doing freelance work at CBS 2 here in New York. Things were fine. It was going well. And there was a day where the news director at the time pulled me in his office and he was like, hey, so I heard you can do weather. You worked at the Weather Channel. And I said, yeah, but I'm not a meteorologist. And I'll never forget him saying, yeah, we don't really care about that. Okay. So I then started training to be a meteorologist. Now, mind you, I had knowledge of weather because of my 2 years at Weather Channel, but still, and I didn't, so I ended up working with one of the executive producers of the weather department there, kind of got me all up to speed, and I was off to the races. Okay, so here I am filling in for the meteorologists at CBS 2 while I'm doing reporting. Things were going really well. Until March of 2017, I was out on a live shot. It was one of those long days where the day just kept on going. And I'm doing a live shot. It was a terrible story about a firefighter who fell out of a window, or he was gravely injured during fighting a fire, and he ended up falling in Ridgewood, Queens, but he was transported to Bushwick, Brooklyn. And if you're familiar with that area, it is literally a stone's throw. Like you're on the border. It's just within the two boroughs. So I'm doing a live shot in Bushwick, Brooklyn, and I'm rehearsing, and one of my cameramen, who I still adore to this day, comes up to me and says, you're not in Bushwick, you're in Ridgewood. And typically when you do a live report, you tag out with your location. So I tagged out with Ridgewood, Queens, even though I knew it was Bushwick, Brooklyn, but the photographer had been in the market in the streets longer than me. So I thought, I'll trust him. Always trust your gut, people. So I tagged out with the wrong location. My news director at the time basically came out of his office, from what I've been told, and said, where's Raegan Medgie? Somebody said, she's in Bushwick, Brooklyn. He says, she just said she's in Ridgewood, Queens. That's it. I want her off the air. Yep. That was a Thursday. And I remember because Friday was the last day of the week, and I went in on Friday, and my managing editor was there early. I would go in early. My shift was 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. And nobody was there, but my managing editor pulled me aside and said, you made a big error on TV. And I thought, oh, yeah, I tagged the wrong location. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't accuse anybody of anything. So he got on the phone and spoke with somebody, and I could just see him being like, okay. Comes back to me, and he says, listen, you hurt your credibility. You hurt the credibility of our station, and because of that, we can no longer use you. Oh. So here I am in the edit bay, which is all glass, which I affectionately call the glass case of emotion. And I'm being told that I am getting let go. Okay. I mean, I tried to explain myself, but the decision was made. Fine. Now, this is TV news. This is kind of how it goes for some places. So I thought, okay. And my managing editor says, you need to go to one of the other stations that'll appreciate you more. And I knew it wasn't his decision after his 20th, I'm sorry. So I left, and I went home, and I was just stunned. And I'm married, and I called my husband, who is an airline pilot. He's a commercial airline pilot. Out of respect for his privacy, he does not want to be heard. He does not want to be seen. You will never see him on camera. He's very private, and I respect that. So he goes as pilot. Now, if you follow me on social media, you'll notice that I constantly talk about pilot this, pilot that. So he's anonymous. So I called pilot, and I said, you're never going to believe this. So a couple days later, I remember him taking me out on a run, and I'm a runner. And he said to me, it's going to be okay, that kind of thing. And I may have shed a tear because at that point, I wasn't really feeling a match with CBS 2. I love the people there, but I just wasn't feeling it. So as we were running, I remember saying to him, I'll be damned if CBS 2 tells me when I'm done with this industry. So about 2 months, I didn't have a TV gig here in New York City. Now, at this point, I'm living in the city. And I start reaching out to the local affiliates, and so do my coworkers from CBS 2. And the one thing about, I can say many wonderful things about TV news. For as frustrating as the days are, man, the people are great, and they just look after you. As long as you play nicely in the sandbox, we all help each other. And sure enough, my coworkers at CBS 2 got me in to have a meeting with Fox 5 New York. And I remember the assistant news director at the time calling me at Fox 5 and saying that my name was brought up, crossed his desk, wanted to reach out, has nothing, but he'll keep me in mind. And I thought, okay. I think a day or two went by, and then I got a call from him saying, so remember when I told you we didn't have a spot available? Yeah, we do. So then I started my career at Fox 5 New York. And I was there for about 6 years. So 2 years freelance. And then it was after the 2 years, I became staff. And the way I became staff, my news director at the time brought me in his office and says, hey, we want to offer you staff. We want you to do reporting and also meteorology. And yet again, I'm not a meteorologist. And I said, I'm not I'm not a meteorologist. And he said, no, it's okay. And I thought, but it's not. But it's not, because I don't want to be one of those TV people who are smiling with the hair and the makeup and clouds and talking about the sun. I want to have some knowledge. And if I'm going to be in this arena with true meteorologists, I want to be able to play in this arena as a meteorologist. So I agreed. I said, okay, sign on the dotted line. Great. And I ended up going back to school for meteorology. And it was February of 2020, and I committed to Penn State, their online program. You get a great meteorology education, let me tell you, and it is not easy. When you're a TV news person, you kind of do a little bit of everything. So I did a little bit of everything at Fox. And I, again, love the people there. It just started getting to the point where I now knew my worth and I wasn't getting paid that. And I had to walk. So that was the first time I truly walked from an offer from a news station. They wanted to renew me, but I just knew it was time for me to go and I needed to do something different, or at least I thought I did. So I left in October 2023 from Fox 5. At that point, I had done the meteorology, the reporting, the anchoring, did a lot of anchoring at Fox 5. And now I'm kind of figuring out what I'm going to do. Right before I left, I thought, you know what, just as one last little puff of TV life, let me see what else is out there. So I sent my stuff to ABC in New York, CBS, again, the news director that I had there had since left, and NBC. So I sent all my things to the news directors, and they all got back to me, and they were all interested in, working with me, and that's awesome, right? Like, feather my cap. ABC, however, they really liked the fact that I was a meteorologist and that I could also report. And they definitely were very aggressive in having me meet, the news director, and then the general manager, and then there's a woman above her is like the president of the networks. And it was quick, and it happened real suddenly. And I thought, you know what? Game on. I want to see. I was burned out from Fox 5 and the structure there, and maybe ABC will be more in alignment. Oh, it was. It was so great. Not that any of the others weren't. They all had their glimmers of sparkle. But ABC just, it's ABC in New York City. I mean, and it's the #1 station. So I got to work there, right? And I started off strong as a meteorologist, and it was absolutely fantastic. Then in the new year came, I started doing a little bit more reporting, and I was kind of hybrid, and I was freelance again. And the freelance, as a viewer, you wouldn't know as the person doing the job you do, because there's a pay difference, the hours are different, the need is different. So things at ABC were going so well. Things at WABC started shifting, and I started getting this feeling in my gut. And I am a true believer in listening to your gut, trusting your gut, and following your gut. And my gut was starting to talk to me, and I knew I needed to make a tough decision. So the next episode, we will talk about that tough decision. We will dive into why did I leave WABC, Channel 7 Eyewitness News. That has been a big question. I will go into that in the next episode.